Okay. Thank you. Welcome everybody to our Design to Thrive. We're so excited that you've tuned into this broadcast. Yes, if you're new, we welcome you. And our usual viewers, we welcome you. Please subscribe, and share this broadcast. It's the long-awaited special edition of Design to Thrive tonight. It's going to be a phenomenal night. And so for you that know me, you know who I am. And for you that don't know me, I'm Fungi Samushonga, your certified professional coach, certified practitioner of neuroscience, neuro-linguistic programming, timeline coaching, and I'm a specialist in business executive leadership, coaching with special interest in mindset, life coaching, seven-figure success coaching, and welcome to Design to Thrive, where we are igniting purpose, releasing potential, awakening passion and dreams, and imparting destiny. So here we are transforming ordinary people to leaders and leaders into change agents, where we are going far beyond just practical tools, but about shifting our mindset, getting a new perspective, pivoting ahead, thriving in life, and really understanding what it means to walk into destiny, live purposefully, and thrive in every dimension of our lives, not just in our careers or finances, but in our relationships, in our health, in our well-being, in everything. So tonight we have a special edition, and I'm just appearing briefly tonight, but I'm super excited because tonight we have two distinguished gentlemen with us. The first one will be Hartness Samushonga, and Hartness is not new to most of you, but he will be our guest host tonight. And with him tonight is Evans Munyuki, our esteemed host who's joining us all the way from Dubai. And so welcome, gentlemen, on board. And I'll just introduce Hartness briefly, who's our guest host, and he will introduce Evans in a short while. Now, Hartness, while he is my husband and my beloved friend, tonight I'm receiving him as a business strategist, a consultant, an entrepreneur who's coming with such wisdom and such passion to have a conversation with Evans Munyuki. He's a multi-gifted, skilled business and ministry leader, a consultant with a unique balance of business expertise, ministry practice, and scholarship experience. Hartness is also an alumni of Harvard Kennedy School, CEO of Veracity Consultancy, and is the founder and senior leader of Millennium Harvest Church. So he's a man who wears many hats. He's also a CEO of Bivo Support International, which is bivocational ministry support for ministers that are in ministry and pivoting them also into the marketplace. And his business interest includes health and social care, business and management consultancy, as well as medical tourism. Hartness is a visiting higher education lecturer in theology and management in both here in the UK and abroad. He's a sought-after speaker in ministry and business, and Hartness has a deep conviction for prayer. For those that know this man, they know that he loves to pray, and really that gives him a deep revelation and anointing to do what he does and do it so well. He is also a great father and an amazing husband. So welcome on board, Hartness, but I'll hand over to you shortly, soon after our brief commercial from Veracity Global Medicine, who are one of our sponsors for this show tonight. So big thank you to Veracity Global Medicine. Everybody tune in. It's just going to be a couple of minutes and Hartness will take over soon after that. See you shortly.
Hi, this is Jesmond from Veracity Global Medicine, a leading medical tourism company. Veracity Global Medicine specializes in helping people from around the world access high-quality private medical care in the United Kingdom and India for all types of diagnostic tests, treatments, and medical procedures through our world-class partner hospitals and medical centers. All our clients are sure to receive a consultation with a leading medical consultant or surgeon to plan their care before signing a care agreement with the hospital or medical centre. If you or your loved ones are in need of high quality medical tests, treatments, or medical procedures that are either not available, not accessible, or not prioritised in your home country, Veracity Global Medicine is your first and last stop. We understand that the thought and experience of travelling to a different country for medical care can be daunting. To support you on this, we provide accessory services which include airport pickups, accommodation in a fine apartment for you and all your loved ones accompanying you, and a chaperone service provided by a local medical chaperone to accompany you to your medical appointments. To start the pre-assessment process, simply visit our user-friendly website www.veracityglobalmedicine.com and select and complete the contract form for your desired country. A friendly agent will be in touch with you to guide you through the process, leading to your consultation with a leading medical practitioner. So, if you're in need of high quality private medical care in the UK and India, and if you are not from these countries, do not delay. Get in touch with us. Visit our website www.veracityglobalmedicine.com or call our global office on +44 1482 236 484 during office hours to complete a pre-assessment.
Thank you very much, Fungi, for welcoming me to the program. Thank you also for having me on today to be the guest host to such a brilliant, well-organized event. I thank you for your passion with Design to Thrive, which is obviously your commitment outside of your commercial, professional work that you do in coaching, that you just give this for free to get people to be transformed, really. And so I do thank you. And as I said, I'm excited to be here. And to my audience today, I do have a special guest with us today, Evans Munyuki. You see, I could spend the whole day talking about Evans. Evans is a great friend, and he's a good friend, but also a brother to me. We have a strong connection, which dates back from my childhood. You know, we were in the same church in Zimbabwe, and our parents were connected, obviously, through the work of ministry. And we developed that connection as families. And Evan's late brother, Emmanuel, was a very, very close friend of mine. If you want a description of best friends, that's me and Emmanuel. That half of the girls we knew, outside of those who knew us, they thought we were twins. So yeah, that's how tight it was. Very good friend of mine. And I'm so honored to have Evans today. And I'm also excited to have you, Evans. And I believe that today is going to be really transforming to a lot of people who have joined in, because the reason why we have you today as one of our guests is we do recognize a lot of transformation, a lot of progress that you've made in life and impacted in the business world, but also in people's lives. So that's what we want to tap into today. And through this conversation that you and I are going to have today, I want to assure the audience that it's going to be really transforming. And it's for different people, really, young people, people in business, or just somebody wanting some life principles and life skills. We have the right guests with us today. So Evans, as I said, you are my brother. I mean, our families were that close. I'm reminded of your dad. You know, my mom passed away when I was 17, and obviously our families were very close. There's one thing that dad did for me. He actually came to my house. Obviously, he was expected to come, and he asked my dad to take me away from the home, obviously, when there was a funeral. And he spent the day driving with me and Emmanuel. I always remember that day because it did really transform me. And then while you were transitioning from the US, going to South Africa, you stayed with me and Fungi. That's actually 16 years ago, because I remember that's when Enoch was born, and now Enoch is actually 16. And we lived together for 4 months. That was really amazing. And I just want to bring this before we get on to the business of the day. You know, when we were parting ways, when you're going, you said to me, Hartness, I've learned a lot of things from you. And I'm thinking, what are you talking about? I've learned quite a lot from you. I read all your project management books behind your back. Obviously, you did give me some of them, and I did learn quite a lot. That's why Fungi and I are quite excited and honored to have you. So I'm just going to read Evan's biography so that our audience are, up to speed with who we have as a guest. So Evans is an author of the book Up for Digital Transformation in the Gig Economy. He is in the process of writing his next book, which will be published on the 31st of May. It's called Up for Success in the Gig Economy. So formerly, Evans was a Group Chief Digital Officer for Emirates National Bank of Dubai, which is the ENBD. He's also he founded and headed the E20, which is the digital business bank for ENB. And by the way, ENB is the largest bank in Dubai with total assets worth about 190 billion. And it has significant operations across 9 countries. Evans was also Chief Digital Officer for RBB, which is Barclays Africa. He transformed the retail and business bank across 13 countries. Again, Evans was Chief Digital Officer for BB Absa Bank in Africa, leadership across 12 countries and 14 customers, 1,450 branches. Wow, that's amazing. And he was also Digital Information Officer for MyBucks FinTech, which was the first African company to list in Frankfurt in Germany, and present in 12 countries globally, including highly regulated markets like Australia and Switzerland. And Evans won the prestigious award, the Digital Personality of the Year 2020 in Dubai. And he also won the award, Finnovateur of the Year 2019 in Dubai. And he's a digital savvy leader and a practitioner, having delivered more than 350 projects in his career. In addition to being an award-winning leader in digital, Evans is a sought-after speaker, a published author of a book, which we have already made reference to. And he's also a musician, by the way, really inspired me in terms of music. And I could say a lot about Evans. So Evans, welcome to the program today. Just say 1 or 2 words to our audience before we can kick off.
Thank you so much, Mr. Sams and Mrs. Sams. It's an absolute pleasure being here tonight. I count it an honor to really be here with you guys and to share some insights and some info as we share knowledge together. So thank you for this opportunity here at Designed to Thrive tonight.
Thank you, Evans. I know I've said quite a bit about you tonight by way of introduction, and I think it really makes sense to get the audience to really understand who Evans Munyuki is. I'm sure there's more detail to what we're reading in your biography. We want to just get a sense of who we have on tonight. So that's the first thing I'm going to ask you to do for us. Just take a moment, please. Just tell us in detail about who Evans Munyuki is.
Well, thank you so much. So it's kind of difficult to sort of like explain yourself and to describe yourself, but I'll give it a shot. There are a few dimensions that come to mind when I start thinking about myself and how kind of I'd like to think about myself. The first one is a believer. So the way that I'd sort of express what I view myself as, or sort of like who I view myself as, is first and foremost a believer. I really believe in the power of possibilities. I believe in the saying which says that where there is life, there are possibilities. And I believe in the power that God has put in us to create. The ability to create is something that I strongly believe in, and I actually felt so strongly about this session that I prepared a couple of points that if I do have an opportunity to sort of like just share my screen here, I'd love to do that and just walk you through it. But being a believer, whether it's believing in, God and the power that He has put in us to create is a really, really powerful thing. And I love problems. I've learned to embrace the the power and the opportunity that lies within problems, because as we'll talk about a bit later on, they actually are a gold mine of opportunity. So that's the first thing I'd say about myself, which is being a believer. The second thing I'd say is being a son. And I take to heart, Mr. Sams, the words that you've just shared when you said you remember our upbringing and the role that our parents played in helping to shape our character, in helping to shape who we would become. They really played a significant role, and that sort of like reflection is important, because it's a bit like throwing a seed into the ground. It's important for that ground to be ready to receive the seed. Some people might see that seed as it hits the ground, and they might think, "Oh, this seed has basically just died. It's now in darkness," but they don't realize that it's been planted. Something amazing is going to come out of that. So I think that's the power of sonship. It's being able to be humble enough to listen to direction, to observe, to learn. And I really think of myself as a son. And I'm proud of the fact that even though both my parents are no longer living, I took quite a bit of time last year to do a documentary movie of my mother's life and my dad's life. And it's actually won quite a good number of awards within the United States, as they recognize sort of like the really good contribution that they made in their living years. And I think that's part of the power of sonship. The next way that I'd sort of like describe myself as a father, and it's really, I'm blessed to have four really, really amazing children. I have three sons, all born in November. So November is a tough month for me financially. All three of my sons were born in November. My wife was born in November, so I have four birthdays in November. But coming to think of it, being a father is really important, and the role that I play in the children's lives. And actually, the reason why I wrote this book, Up for Digital Transformation in the Gig Economy, it actually began as me thinking about what words would I want to give my own children to guide them as they prepare for careers in the new times that we're now in. And as I was sharing with them, I just thought, why don't I actually write this down and give them a story that they can carry with them into the future years? And that's how the book began. And eventually it became a big project, because I ended up with like 610 pages worth of content in that book, because it's so powerful and it covers a lot of content. So being a father is what led me down that path. An achiever, I love to achieve, I love to make things happen. And you can just kind of see this through some of the headlines. If you just Google my name, you'll see some of these press releases of things that I was able to get done when I was within South Africa in sort of like three different listed companies. And then also in my time here in Dubai in the last sort of 3.5 years, of which the pinnacle of that has been the idea that I came up with in 2018 of building and launching a specific digital business bank that targets banking for small, for micro entrepreneurs, for investors and so on, and getting funding for that bank and being given the multi-millions to go build it and actually building it and delivering it. And as I speak, that bank is currently live here in the United Arab Emirates in Dubai, and serving all the Emirates within the local country. And it's something that was actually really recognized by the deputy ruler of Dubai and the first deputy chairman of the executive committee of Dubai, as they wanted to actually create a platform that targets, sort of attracting investors and positioning Dubai as an attractive destination for investment. And they wanted to build a platform in a very short period of time that can allow investors to bring their money to start a business, to register a business, open a bank account, and get everything done, not within months, not within weeks, not within days, but within minutes, and actually delivered that and partnered with the government. And what you see on the screen is a letter that was written by the deputy ruler of Dubai, where he mentions the name, my name, and specifically what I did in that contribution. So that was something that was really, I'm really happy about. So that's kind of how I would kind of describe who Evans Munyuki is.
That is really amazing, Evans. You've touched quite a number of things there that I think they are really key takeaway points. I really like the way you start off with your background, because background does, in many ways, influence where you're going, right? I like that you actually start off with your faith, the fact that you're a believer, the way that you and I have been raised is really amazing. And when it's happening at the time, as a young person, sometimes you don't realize the benefits of it. And I'm always talking to my brother Heath, just sometimes saying, because both our parents are late, always saying, I wish mom and dad were here. Like when I make progress or when he makes progress, because these are some of the foundational things that they instilled in us to become where we are now. I know your parents did a lot, and how they invested in you many years ago when you went to the US to study back in the day. It was something really big. And obviously, I'm glad they live to see the fruit of all of that. It's really, really amazing. And for a fact, you are an achiever. You don't want to fail. That's as far as I understand you. And I think that really helps. There might be some achievers out there, or somebody who just wondering how to actually get to achieve to greater depth. And I think you have actually spelled it out. It's really amazing to get that recognition from that level of the deputy ruler of Dubai. That's really amazing. And thank you for sharing that with us. I want to just going to get a little bit more insights from you. I mean, we've been hearing some of the achievements that you've made. And I know for a fact that that's just a summary. That's not everything that you have achieved. And what I always want to get to, I want to get to a place beneath what we actually see on the outside. So would you care to share with us tonight if there's any principles? One thing I learned about you when we stayed together for those 4 months is you are a man of principle. And I some of those things really rubbed onto me. And I don't want to go ahead of you, but I want you to share with the audience, because it's not just about what you've done in a specific industry, but I suppose there's some key principles that the audience would really benefit from. And I'm just going to give you this time to share that with us, if you may, please. Thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you so much, Mr. Sams. I think the one thing you mentioned is the time that we stayed together for 4 months. I had left the United States, and I was planning to to relocate to the UK, and I already kind of had some possibilities in terms of where to stay and things like that. And when you found out that I was going to be in the area, he was like, you have to come. His arms were completely open wide. I came to his home. He had I think 2 cars at the time. He took one of his cars from his wife. He gave it to me. I was using it at will. His home was my home, And it just goes to show the power of brotherhood. And really, it was a 4 months that I really valued. In fact, that's the time when I learned to fast, because I didn't
I
really
remember, yeah.
I didn't enjoy fasting at the time. And then he showed me how to pull off a 3 day and 3 night fast. And I was like, I was in torture. I was struggling, but it was just amazing and really interesting to sort of like teach your own body to sort of like submit itself and to surrender to your will. And I thought that was very interesting. And that actually touches on the sort of like one of the answers to the question that you just asked, which is, what principles got me to where I'm at. Guys, I prepared these answers because this was such an important night for me that I wanted to make sure that I would maximize the opportunity to impart these insights with you. The first thing I'll share is really understanding that life is far from perfect. That is one thing that I learned quite early on, which basically says, you see people that have lots of gifts, lots, of blessings, as the good book says, to whom much is given, much is required, which means when you have a starting point where you are well equipped in terms of your tooling, in terms of your access, in terms of your talents, there is a lot of expectation. So there is no competition in life. The only competition we have is with ourselves, which is an opportunity cost type of competition, which says, what did we do with the talents that we were blessed with? Did we hide them and hope that we just keep them safe? Or did we actually utilize them and take risk to be able to maximize on the returns that we bring? But as we do that, you actually then find that life is not perfect. We all love to get onto social media and to post our best pictures of ourselves, our best messages about ourselves. But nobody really ever sort of like takes content which is negative or which doesn't present us in the best light to share with others. And I discovered this when my mother passed and I was struggling with sort of like dealing with the whole thing. I joined a group on Facebook, which was sort of like a grief group, which I found very interesting because in that group, no one was talking about the great things. You was basically seeing people in tears, and you sort of like realize that sometimes you see people sort of like the happy part when they're in public, but they get home and people have things that they struggle with. So life is not perfect, and it's best for us to maximize on the tooling and the equipping that we've been given to bring the maximum value that we can. The second piece that I wanted to share with you is I learned quite early on that it's okay to be the odd one out. In fact, I became a first line manager in the United States, working in IBM at the time, in my early 20s, very, very young. And I knew that I was very young because pretty much my entire team was older than me. And these were people that did not look like me. They did not sound like me. They did not behave like me. I was an African guy from Zimbabwe, sitting in the South in the United States and leading a team. And I had to learn specific skills. I had to learn that, many times I'm the odd one out. I sit in boardrooms, and I still do up until this day, where I sit in boardrooms, I look at people that don't look like me. They're not the same skin color as me. They don't sound the same as me, but actually don't care about that. Focus on delivering value, because as people start to see value, then they look beyond the color of the skin and actually start to judge you by the delivery that you produce. With that comes the point which says, study hard, work smart, work hard, because it takes work. Success, it takes work. If it was easy to get done, everybody would be doing it. But it takes work. It takes study. We don't have to make all the mistakes ourselves to be able to learn from them. We can learn from the mistakes of others by studying about their own experiences and learning better ways of executing our own strategy. Dealing with failure is very important. Learning how to deal with failure is super important. Failure is not the opposite of success. Many times people think, oh, I have failed, therefore I will not try again. Well, think about this. Many of us have had our own children, and we've had the opportunity to see them attempt to walk. We've had the opportunity to see them fall, but none of us ever said, oh, my daughter, you fell. Oh, shame, sorry. Just stay down there. You're not supposed to walk. You're not really good at this kind of stuff. We don't do that. We let them get up. And when they get up, we allow them to try again. Once they've tried again, they fall. And we encourage them. They get up again. They try again, they fall. And we keep doing that. Nobody ever says, oh, you've reached your quota of falling. We say, try again. Failure is not the opposite of success. It is actually a part of success. It's inevitable. The best way to avoid failure is to do nothing. If you just sit and do nothing, of course, you're not going to fail because you're trying nothing. But if you want to get things done in life, if you want to, for the master to one day say, well done, thou good and faithful servant, we have to get up and do. We have to be and we have to do. And as we do, we will fail. But when we do fail, we're resilient. And being resilient is having that quality which a tennis ball has, which basically says you can drop it, but it's going to bounce and it'll come back up. You can drop it, it'll bounce and it'll come back up. Dream bigger, plan closer, execute faster, learn sooner. What do I mean by those 4 points? Dream bigger. It's about saying, I learned that when I take on a project or take on something, it needs to be worthwhile so that when we do succeed, it's worth celebrating. What I mean by this is I'll give you sort of like the difference between two key words. One, which is the word which is effectiveness, and the other, which is efficiency, right? Efficiency is doing things well, right? Effectiveness is doing the right things. So it's no point being efficient and doing things well, only to find out that you've been ineffective. For example, it's a bit like saying you've got a ladder leaning against a wall. Being efficient is climbing that ladder very quickly. Being effective is making sure that the ladder was leaning on the right wall to start with. Otherwise, it's pointless to get to the top, only to realize that you're actually in the wrong place. So dream bigger to make sure it's worthwhile. Plan closer to actually say, we're not going to start planning for 2 years out there. We're going to actually start soon. Execute fast, right? Get things going fast. And then learn soon. So if you fail, find out what happened, what are the learnings from this? What do we get out of this? And how do we turn this into a success? The power of partnerships is very important. The power of ecosystems, that's something that's also been very important in my own career. And I learned a long time ago that a single log does not make a fire. It's important for us to work in teams, to embrace the contributions that other people bring, realizing that there's some people who are sort of like in the hats, they have black hats, yellow hats, green hats, which basically says there's some people who are analytical, there's some people who are good communicators, there's some people who are good at organizational skills. And it's all that combination that really completes us when we work with teams and we look at bringing the value that comes from collaboration, that comes from partnership and working on common goals together. Then to sort of like sum it up to close that, it's the sort of like the rounding of the key points. Now, I won't talk about spiritual health because I know that we have a lot of focus on that. And even, for example, social health, we have a lot of focus on that with our relationships. But the three things that I'll touch on are the importance of physical health, mental health, and financial health as part of a success story. Because as you work on your success, it's no point for having the talent and the skills that God has given us, and then we're not able to fulfill or to see through our vision because we physically are unable to endure. We're physically unable to compete. And when I say physically, I mean literally having the cardiovascular ability, having the strength training ability where the body is able to surrender itself to the will that the mind has. There needs to be that physical health that comes with that. The second piece is mental health, and this is something that many people don't spend a lot of time focusing on. And I really appreciate and value the fact that you started a ministry that and a business that really focuses on helping people deal with the challenges of sort of like this bivo element where they're in ministry, but they're also in the marketplace and they're having responsibilities. It's important for people to have health mentally to be able to cope. And then financial health is kind of the last piece. And obviously, the Richest Man in Babylon, that book is a very good book. If you haven't read that book, you should. It's a fantastic book. The one thing I got from that book is this one statement, which says, "A part of all I earn is mine to keep." Now, we all know that when we earn, the tax man takes his part, and we have responsibilities. We have to pay rent. We have to do so many things with the earnings that we have. We have to do our giving and everything. But what about yourself? There has to be a part that always stays with self, because when that part exists, then later, when we have dreams, when we have goals, when we have ambitions that we want to pursue, every single vision that we will have needs provision. And with the vision needing provision, if we're able to put money aside and lead ourselves first, we'll be able to lead others when they entrust us with resources. And that's a key lesson that's helped me. Sometimes it's not saving money. Sometimes it's just buying assets that appreciate as opposed to buying assets that depreciate. So instead of buying things that just lose value all the time, buy stuff that, even if you leave it in the house or piece of land or whatever, over time it appreciates. These are some of the things that have helped me as I've lived sort of like through my career, Mr. Sams.
Wow. That's a lot of takeaway there. That's really lots of insights. I hope you guys in the audience, you're actually capturing these things, really insightful. It's one thing to talk about principles, and it's another to talk about principles when you can actually show the results of it. And we have had a glimpse of some of the things that Evans has actually achieved, and he was actually sharing with us some of the principles that were like drivers to get to where he is. I don't want to repeat everything that he said, but just to highlight, I'll probably probe you on one thing, Evans, if you don't mind. You talked about no one is perfect, which is really amazing, that we need to always think about that, which is also linked to the area of failure. I like what you said, that failure is actually part of success. So when you failed, there might be somebody listening to us today, you've had it from the man himself, that there has been failures along the way, but they should not really hold you down. And I like your four-part template of success, where you dream bigger, where you plan close and execute fast, and you have to learn sooner, and also about working as a team in synergy. I also like particularly, you touched about health, and you are so right that mental health is one of those areas that generally it's not often talked about. And I like you saying that, because when we come to the close of this session, you're going to hear our next special guest is going to be touching on mental health from an expertise perspective. So that's amazing that you actually do that. I want to probe you, Evans, on one of the things that you've said very quickly. I want to ask you at what point, because you said, quoting the good book, in the book of Luke, that to whom much is given, much is expected. I want you to just share with us, at what point did you realize what you had? Okay, so to whom much is given, much is expected. At what point did you realize that you actually had these things in you? I don't
Yeah.
mind.
So
You don't mind, just go through with us on that.
yeah,
Please.
yeah. So for me, it actually happened when I had gone to the United States. So um, I went to the US when I was 18, and at that time, up until that time, I basically, having grown up in Zimbabwe in an African setting, I always associated gray hair with wisdom. That's how I was raised, right? And I found myself as a sort of like a 21-year-old in the workplace, having sort of like done my first degree. I did about 3 degrees within the US before I came back. Um, I was in the workplace at about 21, 22 years old, and I was having a conversation with a gray-haired Southerner, where I couldn't believe sort of like what he was saying and how sort of like ungrounded the wisdom was coming out of him. So it sort of like struck me at the time to say, wow, look at this. I'm just 21, 22, and yet I'm sort of like streets ahead in terms of my understanding of the teachings that as you mentioned, my father and mother would spend a lot of time sort of like imparting on us. So I started kind of feeling like, I started reflecting on something that happened a long time ago with my mother, where I heard one of my schoolmates kind of say, oh, I'm not good at this. I'm not even going to try, right? So I thought this is interesting. This guy failed an exam and he said, well, I'm not good at this. Why are you looking at me? So I thought I'd try the same trick with my mom as well. So I didn't perform well at school in one subject. And I said, Mom, I'm not good at this. I'm not going to try. She wouldn't even have it. She was like, I don't want to hear you say that ever again. There's no such thing as I'm not going to try. You will try. You will keep trying. You will push hard. And as she was telling me that, she was busy taking night school because she had not finished high school. I would drive her to school. So I would go to school during the daytime. At night, I'll go to school again with my mother so I could sort of like be her security. And I'd sit in class with her while she was taking her own classes at night school. And so she sort of like pushed this whole thing within myself, which says, there's no such thing as I'm not good enough. There's no such thing as I'll quit without even trying. You have to keep trying and you have to put your all into it. So when I went to the US, that's when these things sort of like started coming together for me. And I started realizing that, wow, as one gentleman once said, hey, there is a mark upon your life and you've got something entrusted to you. And it's really important. And we all have, by the way, it's really important for us to show that we're good custodians of what we've been entrusted with. What is a custodian? Custodianship is really all about saying, we get given something, it's in one state. But by the time we leave it, it's in actually a better condition than it was when it was given to us. That is custodianship. And that's when I really began to really value that. And imagine what would happen and what will happen within some of our countries and environments when we really start to embrace the true spirit of custodianship, which says, even if I've had something for just 1 year, if I just look after this thing for 6 months or a year or 2 years, it doesn't matter. But when I'm done with it, boy, it's going to look better than it did when you gave it to me.
That is really profound, really, really amazing. I don't want to dwell on this, but this is really powerful. I mean, it's linking to some of the things that you've already said, that you got to be a custodian, but you also talked about studying real hard, because there is a misconception sometimes that people look at somebody who's been successful and it seems as if there was maybe a shortcut to it, but there is lots of hard work that's behind it. And I hope the audience are really being encouraged by that, particularly those people who are really working hard, maybe at a project or a plan. I'll say keep running with it, because as we've heard tonight, that it does pay off. Be a custodian. I also want to underline the fact that, Evans, you say that every one of us has got something in them. You don't always know what it is, but when you cultivate it and you work hard at those things that are actually happening around you, that's when these things actually come out. And I'm going to move and ask you this question. I mean, we do have a mixed audience, I believe, tonight. We've got young people, we've got entrepreneurs, we've got investors, and we know that digitalization is your area of expertise. So I want to ask you, what can you say to our audience tonight about the digital age that we are in now? To all those groups of people, as I've said, the young people, entrepreneurs, and investors, what do you have to say on that?
So I think the one thing to just really think about as we look at this is the fact that we're really in the digital era. And in fact, that's what I spent quite a bit of time last year in this book that I wrote on digital transformation. And it really talks about the fact that we now live in what they refer to as the gig economy. And you're going to find that by the year 2027, about 50% of the workers in the United States, for example, will be freelancers, and they will be basically self-employed, working on their own terms and so on. So the one thing that I really sort of like highlighted on a lot in the book is it's important whether you're talking about your career planning or you're talking about your business planning. It's important to go where the puck is going, not where it has been. This is a piece of advice that was given to a really, really famous hockey player in Canada by his father, Mr. Gretzky. And the whole point was to say, if you're playing hockey and you look at a puck, don't try to chase it and try to catch up with it, because you're always going to be playing catch up. But as part of strategy, how do you look at your opponent and see where is he or she looking? And then you sort of like start to anticipate the kind of actions that they're going to take with the puck. So you can start to anticipate where the puck is going. And this piece of advice is really helpful, especially in career planning, because I can tell you right now, there are jobs that are busy on the decline. In 2020 alone, more than 20 million people lost their jobs globally with the whole COVID pandemic. And there are certain role types which were very easy for employers to pick on as they decide who to lay off. So how do you position yourself? How do you coach your own children on the types of areas that they should invest their educational pursuits in? How should you guide them? It's all about really anticipating which job types are on the decline versus which ones are on the upswing, and that's what I cover in the book. And the same thing within business. But the actual anchor for tremendous success is empathy and understanding problems. And I'll touch on that in just a second here. But basically, there is the whole understanding of technology transformation, but then really understanding digital transformation as well, because it touches on understanding this opens up a whole world of career possibilities. In fact, in my book, I go through more than 25 career types, and I go through more than 70 career paths that people can take. It's really about understanding that, you know, technology transformation is one thing, but digital transformation is something that's greater. And as you look at sort of like how digitization differs from digitalization, from digital transformation, it's really about understanding that when people talk about digitization in careers or talk about digitization in companies, it's really talking about the conversion of information into a digital format. So if I take this piece of paper, for example, and I basically scan it, I've just digitized it because I've turned it from a piece of paper and I've turned it into a digital format. Digitalizing is then enabling or improving that process by leveraging digital technologies to say, now that we have the data that's on the piece of paper in a digital format, how can we leverage it as we run businesses, as we run banks, as we run organizations? But what happens there is you start to get economies of speed, right? So you start to see how companies can reduce their cost levels, and you start to see how they can improve efficiencies. So for example, you look at banks, many banks run at cost to income ratios north of 55%, but fintechs run south of sort of like 35, 38%, because they manage their costs better, which means that when they get income, their costs are so low that they have higher profitability, and they're able to give better returns to their shareholders. Now, digital transformation is really all about saying, how do you reimagine the business model? How do you look at the business processes that you execute within an organization? And how do you incorporate digital tools or technologies into every practical aspect of that business? How do you take paper out? How do you take manual touch points out? How do you actually automate things in such a way that you get a much more efficient running organization? Think, for example, when was the last time you spoke with the contact center at Netflix, or the last time you spoke with the people at Gmail? They don't talk to you because their processes are so efficient that you don't need to really talk to them. This includes reimagining the business strategy and reimagining the structure of the business and purposely designing the experiences. How do you leverage data, and how do you make processes lean, and how do you embrace an agile way of work to capture the opportunities that are enabled by digital technology? On this one page, guys, ladies and gentlemen, I've just shown you a whole minefield of opportunities, because there are more than 70 career paths that are represented by what I just said here. There's more than 20 careers that can spring out, whether you want to be a data scientist, whether you want to be a process engineer, whether you want to be a designer, all of these, opportunities lie at the back of this. Now, why do companies need to do this? Well, because if they don't, they will die. Basically, banks, for example, know that if they don't transform, they will die. And all you have to do is look at examples of companies like Blockbuster versus Netflix. Imagine if you were the board, one of the board of directors on Blockbuster, and you had a strategy to say, well, let's keep things the way they are, and Netflix comes and they take you out of business. Or think if you were sitting in a bookstore and then Amazon came and it completely disrupted and reinvented how you deal with selling of books. Think about companies like Kodak, for example. Kodak actually invented digital photography, but they did not embrace its usage, and they basically ended up being a dinosaur. So the whole point says, if a strategy is not digital, it's a losing strategy. You look at digital penetration and you see that there are multiple industries which are lagging. So for example, on this screen, banks are third from the bottom. But at the very top here at 10, you see companies like media and entertainment companies, which really know how to embrace digital technology. And that's why they are so profitable. And that's why their valuations are so high. The guy who really said it best is Mr. John Chambers, who used to be the executive chairman at Cisco. He basically said, at least 40% of all businesses will die in the next 10 years if they don't figure out how to change their entire company to accommodate new technologies. You look at Fortune 500 companies, for example, in 1955 compared to 2017. There were 500 of them in the Fortune 500 list in 1955. In 2017, only 60 were left. What happened to the other, sort of like the other 88% of them? Well, they either went bankrupt, or they were acquired by another company, or they were still around, but their revenues were so low that they didn't qualify to be in the Fortune 500 anymore. The whole point here is that it's not about being strong, it's about being adaptable to change. It's about understanding the changing times that we're in, and to say, how do we compete? How do we position ourselves to be able to compete in these new times where new sets of skills are required in this whole gig economy? You can achieve massive success if you put your mind and heart to it. And these are some of the points that I talked through. The last thing that I'll just mention here is empathy to close out. Empathy is so important. In fact, if you look at some of the best companies that have been sort of like brought about, you think of companies like Airbnb, you think of companies like Uber. These companies were birthed at the back of frustration. It's somebody saying, I need to get a ride from point A to point B. And this is frustrating. Why do I have to keep raising my hand to somebody? Why can't I just take my phone and use an app to do this? And before you know it, a company called Uber is born. You know, or somebody saying, hey, I have my apartment, I have 2 bedrooms. I'm not using one of the bedrooms. Why don't I just rent this out and I make money? Or, you know, at the back of understanding problems, that's where opportunities lie. So my advice as I sort of like close here is to say, look at your frustrations, look at the things that really frustrate you, because inside of those frustrations lie career opportunities. And even better yet, there lies a whole bunch of business opportunities. Because if something is frustrating you, chances are it's frustrating other people. So if you can come up with a way to solve that problem by having empathy and then problem framing it really, really well and solving it, it can lead to profitability. Now, how do you solve it? There are 2 ways of thinking. There's one which is called design by analogy. The other one is called first principles design thinking. What design by analogy basically says is, if just kind of imagine that you were planning to travel from I don't know, from what city A to city B, and at that time, the mode of transportation is horses. If you want to figure out how to get from city A to city B faster, design by analogy says you get a bunch of people together and you say to them, guys and girls, how can we make this horse go faster? Those are the questions you ask. So you have empathy, you understand the problems, and then in solving the problems, you're using what you already know as the analogy to solve the problem. That's design by analogy, which has its place, which is okay. But then there is first principles design thinking, which is very important in both in careers, in how you do your investments, in how you sort of like plan your business pursuits. What first principles design thinking is what guys like Elon Musk and all those guys did. You basically say, okay, I want to solve the problem which says, how do I go from point A to point B faster? Maybe there is a horse in that solution, maybe there isn't. So let's not even talk about the horse. Because if you do design by analogy, your answer might be, let's give the horse better food so it can run faster. First principles design thinking says, maybe there is no horse. Maybe we use a car. Maybe we use something else to get from point A to point B. I'm encouraging us to say, number one, let's bring in the power of empathy, and let's understand problems and really do well in problem framing. And then let's use these design thinking approaches, which then bring in your digitals and your technologies and so on as you solve the problems. But it's really about becoming a master of embracing problems so you can solve them and help make lives easier for other people, for your customers.
That is really amazing, very broad and very detailed at the same time. You know what, Evans, what I'm going to say to the audience is there's obviously more that we could get out of this man here. And he will come back on this program. You know, I like the fact that you actually talk about the various pathways that people can take in terms of career. And I would like to say you're probably going to come back onto this program just to talk about that, okay? I think that in itself is really, really something that's really needed. And I just want to add something there. There might be some business people who are out there.
It's 12 o'clock.
Here on Design to Thrive, obviously, Evans comes, our guest comes, even Fungi every week to just share the insights that they have. But if you really are serious about consultancy for your business or for your projects at a commercial level, get in touch, evansmunyuki.com, or you could link him through Facebook. And then that way you can do something that's really serious. I mean, as I said here, we bring some insights, things that help people. We don't charge. This is just how the platform is designed. But because as you were speaking, Evans, I was putting on my business and consultancy mindset, and I'm thinking, wow, there's a lot that can actually be achieved through this. So I know there are some business people out there. Get in touch with Evans, get some real consultancy there, because your business will be transformed. I mean, there's no two ways about it. We are living in a gig economy, and if you really want to stay ahead of the curve, you got to be engaged with what's happening. And I want to thank you, Evans, for being able to have this discussion with me tonight. And I hope, in fact, I'm quite confident that a lot of people have been helped, have been empowered, and have been transformed. So what I'm going to do just now, we're going to go into just a small clip, video clip about the book. I know you did touch a little bit about the book, and we're just going to get that commercial play. Trust me, it's very short. And afterwards, our host for this program, Fungi, is going to come back and tell you when the next special guest is coming and who they are and what they're going to be covering. So we're going to go to that commercial, and I want to thank you, Evans, again for participating with me tonight. Thank you.
The digital gold rush is here. We are right in the middle of the digital transformation revolution, amidst a pandemic that wiped out more than 20 million jobs in 2020. This is the time to plan and grow your career and your business possibilities. How can you become a top-performing, highly sought-after, top-earning project manager? How can you become a product owner, a full-stack developer, UI or UX designer, or a data scientist? How can you become a chief digital officer, a chief design officer, chief innovation officer, chief information officer, CEO, and more? Up for Digital Transformation in the Gig Economy is an incredible book written by award-winning Chief Digital Officer Evans Munyuki. It shows you how to pursue a lucrative career in the booming digital transformation revolution. It will be available on January 31st on ebook, hardcover, and audiobook formats. Pre-order now on Amazon.com or evansmunyuki.com and make 2021 the year you redefined your career and business possibilities. Up for Digital Transformation in the Gig Economy by Evans Munyuki. How to pursue a lucrative career in the booming digital transformation revolution.
Wow, 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 wow. What an awesome conversation. Great insight. The man was oozing with wisdom. I was like, my goodness. I was writing notes. I was trying to cheer him. Oh my goodness, that was really, really good. Thank you so much, Mr. Evans Munyuki, for coming onto this platform. I know and I can see that there is loads that's in there. And just like what Hartness said and alluded to, that you need to come back and we can just go into the various topics and things like that. And you know what? You guys did me proud today, because it's one thing about the Black man not being celebrated and one thing about the Black man not being a role model. But tonight we had not one, but two distinguished gentlemen. And, we had an achiever, an extreme achiever, Mr. Evans Munyuki. We also had our business expert, Hartness Samushonga, and you know what, doing what they do. And I loved how when Evans started introducing himself as a believer, his spiritual vision, but also his role as a father and also as a son. That's very, very important, even when we are going into all areas of success. And you talked about a whole lot of things. I'm not going to recap on everything, but I liked this 360 health, vision, that health, financial health, mental health and physical health and things like that. And so thank you so much. We couldn't thank you enough, but we really liked all the things that you had to say say, oh my goodness, it's just amazing. And people, wherever you are, just hashtag, what is your take home tonight? There was a lot of wealth of information that was gold. And the thing is about the book, Up for Digital Transformation and Up for Success is coming soon. So if you haven't had your copy of the first book, you better get to it and get a copy, because the second one is coming out shortly. And we like this because Mr. Evans Munyuki, this is legacy, because, you know, I was talking to a dear friend yesterday, and I was saying there was, because she's releasing a book, and I said, I love this about people of color, that we are changing the narrative, because there actually is a proverb, not from the Bible, but from whether it's an African proverb or English proverb. It says, if you want to hide something from a black man, put it in a book. And the fact that we have so many authors rising, you are an author, Mr. Evans Munyuki, Hartness and I, we are authors. And my friend that I was celebrating, Rose Munduri, is actually launching her book on Sunday. I say, this is good and this is profound, because we are changing the narrative. It doesn't show that the black man doesn't read, but we are actually leaving legacy, because when we put it in writing, it's going to outlive us. So thank you so much, Mr. Evans Munyuki, for taking your time and just writing that legacy down so you can impart us and the generations to come. So I want to thank you both, Mr. Evans Munyuki and Hartness Samushonga, and that concludes our broadcast tonight. But before I let you go, everybody, and I just want to invite you to a few upcoming events. The first one would be the Easter Conference. That's coming up next week, and the flyer will be on the screen. And it's going to be the Power of the Cross. And we have Hartness Samushonga, our senior leader at Millennium Harvest. He will be speaking alongside our associate pastor, Pastor Paul Muzadi. And I tell you, these people are men of prayer. They are men that, you know, they learn what they do and they apply their heart and soul, and they hear from God. So tune in 2nd of April at 11 a.m. and on the 4th of April. So it's Good Friday on the 2nd of April at 11 a.m. UK time. Clocks are changing this weekend, so it won't be GMT anymore. It will be British Summer Time, but it's UK time. And Sunday, Resurrection Sunday on the 4th of April. Both days, it will be at 11 a.m. And you can find us on all our social media platforms on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram as Millennium Harvest Church. And the next one will be on Friday, the 30th of April. It is my privilege and honor to invite you all to come to yet another special broadcast of Designed to Thrive, where again, I'm having another special guest, and it's a man again this time, and Dr. Fabian Motzi. He's going to be joining us on Friday, the 30th of April. It will be 7 p.m. UK time. He's going to be our special guest. Dr. Fabian Motzi is a psychiatry consultant, and he's also an entrepreneur. And so we're going to be discussing some insights on mental well-being, as we've had tonight, that mental health and well-being is key to succeeding in life. So save the date and tune in on Friday, the 30th of April. Now, these men that are coming on this show, I said to my husband earlier on, you know, we have so many legends, shall we call them, that are not being celebrated. And these are men that have personally impacted my life. And I know these men, I'm not just going to bring anybody on the broadcast, but these are men that have personally impacted my life, from Mr. Evans Munyuki. While he's a family friend, but his work ethic and everything that he's done has greatly impacted my life and my husband. And Fabian Motzi, not only is he my brother-in-law, he's married to my twin sister, but I'm receiving him on this show as a consultant psychiatrist, as an entrepreneur, as we discuss some of those key points on mental well-being. So save the date and tune in. Last but not least, we invite you to Supercharge Accelerator program. It's our 9-month coaching program that's starting in April till December. So you have videos, you have one-to-one coaching, you have group coaching every month that's going to be going. And that's for people that are really serious about leveling up. If you want to invest in yourself, a great coach such as I, and to master the secret of transforming your life, tonight was all about transforming and being relevant and investing in the technologies. But here we are going to be helping you to create the health, the wealth, the abundance, and life that you really want, so that you can transform your life from the inside to the outside. And I tell you, this Supercharge program is the ultimate program for you. Whether you want to start your business, grow your business, or scale it to 7 figures and beyond, we also have another program running alongside it called Emerge. Emerge is targeting teenagers and also young adults, 18 to 30-year-olds. So if you want to get into business, you might not have an idea, that is the one for you. So we want everybody to become, to thrive, and to overflow, and to just step into your destiny. So you can do that on www.fungaisamushonga.com. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you next time. Have a blessed weekend.